Hello, Internet friends. This is Danielle Pierce, creator of Real Estate Profit Lab and founder of Property Preservation Mastery. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We're on the last day of our property preservation, the good, the bad, and the ugly campaign. So if you missed out on the prior sessions, please be sure to go back and watch those videos. We talked about dealing with contractors who are incompetent, contractors who are shady. We talked about we had a conversation around preservation versus tax liens versus flipping versus buying and holding. And then of course, we also talked about just how to determine overall whether or not you'd be a good fit for preservation in terms of what qualities do our most successful students have. So again, that playlist is here on YouTube. It is here to stay. It's not going anywhere. So if you've missed out on those prior videos, please be sure to go back and check them out. All righty. As always, come into the room, say hello. Let me know how you guys are doing. Let me know where you're watching from. If you're brand new to the channel, welcome. If you're a returning subscriber, welcome back. We typically start off these videos with highs and lows. So I'll go first. Let me see. High for today. I really like my earrings. I think they're super cute. I got them from my favorite store, Target. And I think they're pretty cute. So I'm happy about those. Low for today. Actually, another high for today. My son had a football game. He's 9. He is playing flag football this year. And he is really starting to enjoy it. And he is recently transitioned to play the position of wide receiver. So he's happy about that. He had 5 catches today, so he's happy. That was another high, but a low is that, so of course I'm still in Texas. It's still hot. I don't know what outside. And so the games are held at this soccer field. So they section off this giant field for all the various, flag football teams, and there is nowhere to sit. So, okay, I brought my chairs, so I was cool with that, but there is no shade. There's no trees. There's no water. There's just nothing but this hot ass field and a bunch of kids running around. So shout out to those kids, man, for pulling that off. Cause I had to, take a step back and go sit under a tree. Because it was really, really high with the sun just beaming directly down on my head. I think I might have even gotten one shade darker in the hour that I was sitting out there. So that's a bit of a low for today. So you guys be sure to comment down below and let me know what your highs and lows are as well. Definitely appreciate it. Be sure to add your comments too and questions as well with regard to this particular campaign that we've run this month. I will be addressing those questions and comments and concerns tomorrow, 7 o'clock Central Standard Time during a live Q&A session. Hopefully you'll be in attendance. There's no special registration process. If you're on our email list, you will get the invitation. Also, if you're on our email list, you would have gotten a discount code for tonight for $500 off of our program. So check your inbox and check your spam folder. It would have gone out right at 7 o'clock Central Standard Time. So you should have it between 7 and usually 7:20 or 7:30. The emails go out to around a little over 50,000 people. So sometimes it takes a while for all the emails to be sent out. But nevertheless, if you're on our list, you will have gotten that particular email with that discount code, and it does expire at midnight. All right, if you're not on our list, head to propertypreservationmastery.com, take our short readiness assessment, and you can be added to the list. All right, don't come out here. I'm doing a video. Don't remember. Close the door. I'm doing video right now. Could you close the door? Because I would like for you to close the door. Thank you, son. All right, I'm back. So again, this is the last day of this particular campaign. Today, we're talking about how to deal with companies that refuse to pay or companies that take a really, really, really long time to pay. And I'm going to address that because that is a concern that many people have. And I think it's a valid concern. I don't want to present the idea that, this is something that you should never be concerned about or never be worried about. I definitely would not want to present it as a concern that is not valid, because unfortunately, it is a very real aspect of working in this particular industry. Could you please stop with the doors and do what I asked you to do? All right, I'm back for this time. So again, talking about the companies that refuse to pay. Number one, there's plenty of companies out there that hire vendors and refuse to pay them, or they take months and months and months to pay you with the hope that you will eventually give up on asking for your money. or threatening for your money if you've gotten to that point. And that's kind of their MO, their method of operation. This is how they maintain their companies. A lot of times these are regional companies or smaller mom and pop organizations, similar to my company or your company, or basically a small preservation company. And you generally will find this scenario under this set of circumstances. So basically, let's say somebody launches a preservation company, they get a contract with, let's say, MCS. Actually, they've been working in the business for a couple of years. They finally get a contract with MCS. MCS is a pretty solid company. They're nationwide, plenty of work. And so they tell MCS, hey, I am capable, ready, and willing to provide full state coverage across, this particular region where I live, so basically 5 states. And MCS, of course, is like, oh my gosh, this is fantastic. We want to send, as much work as possible to the same company. This helps them with workflow and just managing expectations and not having to go out and constantly recruit and always be lacking coverage. So if you tell them that you can cover an entire state in a place where they heavily need vendors, they're going to start sending you work. So this company, the smaller preservation company, lands this big contract to cover 5 states. And they're like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I'm going to make all this money. This is fantastic. But the reality is that they will typically start to assign a bunch of work, and that work will often sit or it will be done incorrectly. And it's due to a lack of coverage or a lack of qualified subcontractors. At the end of the day, there's a reason why people like to focus on urban areas. People like to focus on, the Chicagos, the Dallases, the Atlantas. They want to focus on the big cities within the state. It is because it is incredibly hard to find coverage for these smaller, out of the way places, let's say in a place like Texas. Texas obviously is huge, probably one of the larger states. And if you say that you can cover a place like Texas, like, you better be prepared for a lot of areas where there's just not a lot of people, population is low, people aren't as tech savvy as they may be in other more urban areas. And so it is hard to find coverage in areas that are like, I don't know, Houston is fine. But then if you go an hour and a half, 2 hours, 3 hours outside of Houston, or certain parts of West Texas or East Texas, like, it's just literally the middle of nowhere. So it's very challenging to find coverage in those areas. And so this is what happens with, some preservation companies that basically try to scale too quickly and they move a little bit too fast. So they get in over their heads. They don't manage the payroll properly. They don't manage really anything properly. And they don't have a clear gauge on what's happening. And so they're dropping balls left and right, left and right. So as you can imagine, paying the vendors really gets moved to the back of the line. They're first trying to stop the bleeding with regard to their immediate work orders, trying to convince, continue to convince the preservation company, let's say it's MCS, they're continuously trying to convince them that, hey, I know I said I could handle these 5 states. It's not going so well right now, but I can assure you I can still get this done. So they're spending a lot of time there preserving their contract versus dealing with, a contract that they may owe a couple $1,000s. I'm not saying that it's right. I'm just saying that that's the reality of what happens. So how do you avoid this scenario of working with a company and them not paying you? Well, the number one thing I would say is to not work with smaller regional companies unless you can actually talk to existing people on the team. Because I don't want to blanketly say, am I saying that right? Not to ever work with a small company because, obviously a lot of our students, they have smaller preservation companies. They're looking for people. So I can't say that every single person is a scammer. But what I can say is that if they have existing contractors or they have prior contractors who've worked with them, you can say, hey, can I talk to somebody, one of the contractors now? Can I talk to someone who used to work for you? That's a reasonable request to make, I think. Don't work with companies that don't have an official website. If you have a company and they have no online presence whatsoever, you can't verify the existence of their company, their LLC, through the Secretary of State's website. Probably not a company that you'll want to work with right out the gate. Don't work with those companies that reach out to you directly via email. A lot of our students will get requests, and I still get them too from time to time. So there's a registry, for lack of a better phrase, National Association of Mortgage Field Services, NAMFS. And if you register on that site, supposedly they'll say things like, oh, we'll have companies reach out to you, we have work available, blah, blah, blah. But what happens is companies will see your contact information on the NAMFS website, and they'll send an email and say, hey, we have work in your area, we really need people. Um, are you interested? Are you looking to to add more work or increase your revenue? Or they'll phrase it some kind of way. So generally, those are smaller companies that are basically, again, they have stated that they can handle a large coverage area and they're scrambling to find contractors. So generally, I would avoid those scenarios as well. And then I will say the last thing is that you do want to work probably exclusively with national companies and at the same time do great work. You may run into issues with your invoice being reduced. I won't say that will not happen. I've certainly had that scenario happen. And let's see, the reasons why it happened were, one, I did the pricing wrong, so I invoiced for the incorrect dollar amount. Another time, the contractor said he did one thing and I misinterpreted what he said. So maybe I invoiced for 3 locks and it was only 2 locks, so the invoice got chopped for that reason. Other times, if there's not enough photo evidence to support that the work was done, they'll reduce your invoice for that as well. And it always comes back to the importance of taking great photos. If you have enough photos, you can pretty much counteract those reduced invoices or situations where they're like, well, it doesn't look like you did the work that you're supposed to do. You can only do that though with good pictures. If the work has already been done, and I have had this scenario where we did do the work properly, but the contractor did not take enough good photos. So in that instance, you just simply, most of the time, you won't get paid for that work, whatever it is. That's an unfortunate reality. Very annoying when that happens, especially when you'll get an email. It'll say things like, please provide evidence of blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, it's a trash out and it's done already, and there's no more trash at the property. So therefore, I can't provide any more in-process photos for something that is already complete. So in those situations, it's kind of just this back and forth. You might get a coordinator who says, hey, we'll make a one-time exception. You have others who will just say, we're not going to pay you. It just depends on the person you have that you're dealing with. This is why it's also important to have good relationships with the vendor coordinators, because the more that people know, like, and trust, the know, like, and trust factor, the more that you have that in place as you're operating your company, the easier time that you'll have in terms of, showing up, getting more work, getting those bigger dollar work items. All right. So again, we wanted to do this campaign to provide people with an more comprehensive view of what's actually included, what you'll actually encounter in the property preservation industry. I think it's great for folks who are good at problem solving, folks who are good at following the blueprint, obviously, during the course that we lay out, folks who are good at talking to contractors and hiring them, people who have strong organization skills and attention to detail. I mentioned problem solving. I think that that's worth mentioning again. If you can do that, then you'll do very well. And then, of course, be consistent and persistent and do good work. People who I found have struggled with regard to getting in preservation, those who don't have a really good support system, but there's someone who needs that in order to move forward. And by that I mean there's some folks who can move forward just from internal motivation, and then there's other folks who have to have other folks around them continuously edify and reaffirm them. And I'm not saying one is good or bad. I don't want you to misinterpret that. I'm just offering up an example. So if you're someone who needs continuous affirmation that you're doing the right thing, that you can do it, you got this, you may struggle a little bit because you won't have that, right, unless you create that environment. What else? If you're okay with sharing information publicly, there's a lot of sharing inside of our alumni community with people who are, working in the industry, encountering different scenarios, having issues with various contractors, trying to understand certain work orders. So if you're comfortable posting in for lack of a better phrase, a public forum, I think you'll do really, really well. If you're someone who just, you can't bring yourself to share, or you find it to be very challenging, then I think you'll have a harder time. And the reason for that is because I think that all the magic is inside of the community. And if you get folks to your community to rally around you, that will help you get through the tougher times versus trying to go at it alone, when most of the people that are directly around you, when you say preservation or property preservation, they're like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, what are you doing now? What's this new business that you said you were doing? what's the point of it again? How much money have you made doing that? So it is important to be able to contribute to and be a part of the larger alumni community, I think, in order to have the best bang for your buck. And then we talked about consistency, persistency, um, continuously reaching out to the various vendor coordinators to ask for more work, obviously doing good work. Those things will help you as well. Understanding that you're going to have to build a business. Oh, I wanted to talk about if you want to own your own business, then obviously this will be a great option for you. But if you're someone who categorically does not want to own their own business and you're like, I don't want to do that. I just want to get paid, or I just want to work, or I just want somebody to, have something already in place that I fall into and it kind of lays out what I'm supposed to do. You don't want to have your own business, and obviously property preservation wouldn't work for you because that's what it requires as a very foundational step. As a matter of fact, the first module in the course is all about laying the foundation for your business. So getting your tax ID number, getting your LLC, utilizing various options. Maybe it's a CPA, maybe it's an attorney, maybe it's a Secretary of State's website, maybe it's Inc. for free. So we do all that. We get the DUNS number, that's being phased out, but nevertheless, we still can get it right now. Set up our business address, phone number, website, email. All those things happen in module one. Module two is insurance, and we cover the process of getting your general liability, errors and omissions, workers' comp may or may not be necessary. So we take you through that process, and of course, there's also commercial auto and or what is called non-owned auto insurance. So that's module two. And then from there, we just kind of take you through the rest of the process step by step by step. So if you can follow a process laid out that way, I think you'll do really well. If you're someone who you like to skip around, you can't really focus, you're someone who's like, I want to, start applying for contracts right away and you don't even have your business set up, then you're going to have a much harder time. All right. So that's all I got for you guys today. Thank you so much for tuning in. Appreciate your time. I'm going to go back and look at all these comments and address them tomorrow night during our live Q&A session. It is 7 o'clock Central Standard Time. It'll be right here on YouTube, I believe. I think that replay will stay up. I can't remember. So make sure that you tune in on time. And I think that's it. As always, sending you all love, light, peace, blessings, grace, and clarity. Until next time. Bye-bye.